Alright, quick video test. This is my first time taking a blaster review video in this format, where sitting in front of you and with all the stuff presented. I thought it would be nice for a change instead of having the camera from the top down all the time. Although having the camera top down is quite convenient when I want to show the items close up or in details. So for example, now I can't exactly show you this thing I want to. But yeah, just want to give you guys a really quick review and my personal opinion on this QWK Edge. This is actually my personal unit. I purchased this for myself. Our tester unit is the one that I've shown quite a while ago, which is in full black color. I bought one with the lower in sand, just to, so that I don't get confused. But unfortunately, this batch is with the serial number 809. That means the 800th unit. The tester unit I have is the, I think, 360 something. So it's quite early batch, and this is considered the first batch as well. So all the problem that I found, discovered in the tester unit is also somewhat presented in this unit as well, and actually more, which I've already fixed, because it's just inevitable that the Edge, or at least the early batch, has some sort of a bugs that doesn't really break the blaster, but just annoys the hell out of you, out of the box anyway. So what I want to go through is, well, the blaster itself, and also, as you can tell, I have a lot of darts here that I just tested. In fact, I just did a mag dump before I made this video, and so all these darts has been shot a couple of times, and then I want to show you, well, in front of the camera, to do a couple of mag dumps. As you can see, I have a lot of magazines here where I'll be loading them into the magazine and then do a mag dump. Right, that's pretty much the point on this video. And I will also give you my thought about this blaster. And well, recently I've saw a lot of not really a lot, couple of videos regarding the battery operated Springer blasters, Nerf AEGs, AEB, whatever you call it. And then I also want to address, some of that. Like a lot of people say the AEGs or AEBs for the foam darts blaster is just not there yet, and they are total garbage or trash or whatever. I do agree to a certain extent, but I don't think they are trash or total garbage, right? So let me just start by loading the magazines. Right, so let's just try with the QWK darts, shall we? Right, so 12 rounds. You probably can fit one more in there, but it's not really recommended. If you're using the QWK darts, maybe that's still okay because the darts is not compressible. So you probably could make it fit 13 rounds and then it will still work properly, or maybe even 14, but I wouldn't push it. So yeah, okay, that's one mag loaded. Well, let me load one more mag. Let's see, this is the dart zone. It's not Pro, right? Yeah, it's dart zone. Well, it's a dart from the Max Striker. I think they call it the Ruby or something, which is not really recommended for the Edge because of the length and also the diameter or fatness of the darts. The foam is slightly thicker than the regular darts, like the Workers Gen 2, Gen 3s, or the QWK darts. So I don't really recommend using the Dart Zone's Ruby darts, but I'll show you. Right, 12 rounds, and I can see some of them being squished. And one of the things that is not so ideal about the Ruby darts, the Dart Zone Ruby darts, is that the foam is relatively soft compared to the Worker Gen 2. So yeah, which is also one of the reasons why it can cause more jam than the other darts. let's see if I can actually get into jam. Alright, so that's 2 magazines loaded. Alright, so this is the Edge itself. So the buttstock or the bracer is deployable, it's spring loaded. So with a light pull of these tabs here, it will deploy like this. Right, so personally, it's not really a big fan of this style of a bracer or buttstock because they do work though, but I just don't like it. I like to use the Edge with the buttstock retracted, and yeah, this is just how I'm going to use it. So this is the battery. This is not included with the basic package of the Edge. You actually have to buy this separately. The stock battery is not here. I'll show you in another video, I suppose. So this battery is a 1100 milliamp battery, which is plenty enough for a game session, especially for a sidearm like the Edge. But if you want to run your Edge as your primary, it works as well. The battery efficiency of the Edge is quite wow. You probably can get 600 plus shots out of the Edge with one single battery. So you get one more of this and it should be okay for most occasions, right? So I think I mentioned this before, but the Edge, you can actually use it without the battery. That means use it like a manual springers. So you just like rack the slide. I mean, it's quite a tough prime because the spring is quite stiff. So once the spring is primed, the slide will be free up like this. Right, you can easily pull the slide, and to fire it, just simply pull the trigger. Yeah, it has a really good seal, but yeah, I digress. So you can actually use it like this. You just load one dot. Right, it works that way and it works quite amazingly well too. The seal is good and it makes a really nice pop, but it's really hard to prime. I'm not really sure if you can do this all day. Someone probably could, but it's not ideal. But it's good to know if your battery goes down, you can still fire it. That's kind of nice, and which is also why I think the Edge has the best trigger pull ever in any of the electronic blaster. It works better. I mean, it feels better than the Mark III even, because the Mark III is still, the trigger is not it's not real mechanical, because when you pull the trigger just push onto the micro switch. But this, it actually works like a actual manual springer where you have the catch mechanism behind here, and that's why even without battery you can still fire it. Right, so and that's it. That's one of the information that I want to relay to you guys, that this blaster can actually fire both with or without the battery. Right, so with the battery plugged in, right, when you plug in the battery, you're gonna be really careful because the terminals, the battery contact points here, and the blaster contact point is not the best type of connections that I've seen. So if you're not paying attention, you may actually cause damage to the terminal in the blaster that will push the battery contacts inwards and then break something. So you want to be really careful with that. When you plug the battery, you want to take your time and just slowly push it in, right? So with the battery in, there is no on-off switch or any sort of activation mechanisms that you can use and make sure that the battery, the system is primed electronically. So with the battery in, if the system is not primed, you pull a trigger, nothing will happen, right? And the official way to actually prime this blaster or electronically, well, according to the user manual, is to manually erect the slide, right? Make sure the system, the spring is primed. Then you plug in the battery, right? And then, well, you can basically just plug in, you can insert a magazine to your stuff and it should work. And it should. right? So magazine in, right? So one darts in the chamber. It should work electronically now, right? It does, right? But I notice sometimes it doesn't. Or it's rare that happens. Meaning, right? You rack the slide and then you plug in the battery, right? You load the magazine, you rack the slide again, right? That's in the chamber, and you think your blaster is ready to go. And then you fire, and it doesn't work electronically, meaning it just fire like this, and then you pull a trigger again, nothing happens. So that is one of the things that I don't like about the Edge, and although it's not really something that bothers me as much, it's just one of the weird and sort of a design flaw, because you don't have there's no way to actually activate the electronic system manually. I mean, with a button or some sort. So what I did usually is, with the system unprimed, right, I plug in the battery, right? With the battery in, I just pull the slide just a bit, because there's a sensor going on here, which I will explain in detail in the next video where I break down the blaster and show you the internal. So this is what I do. With the system unprimed, meaning pull the trigger, nothing happens. Battery plug in, and then I just pull the slide just a bit to activate, so that the magnet can activate the sensor. Right, so I just, right, so yeah. So now I'm sure that the system is activated electronically, and then I'm ready to go, and the weird things won't happen. So yeah, just something about, I call it the characteristics of the QWK Edge. Not really sure if they will actually fix that, or add a manual button somewhere, but that will actually complicate up the system more, which I think it's fine the way it is. Just have to be mindful about it. Alright, so I'm going to fire off these magazines and then keep loading until I finish off the magazines here, and see how many jams that we can actually, how many times the blaster can actually jam using these darts. Also, before I start, well, a jam rod is a must. Using any sort of automated Springer blaster, you should expect your blaster to jam at any time. So that's very important, and so that it doesn't frustrate the hell out of you when things does happen, which it will. Right, this is a Mark III magazines. It's not going to be, well, let me show you anyway. Yeah, it won't work with the Edge. So yeah. Well, the reason I bring one of this here is because of the magnets. It's quite funny because sometimes the way the Edge jams is sometimes because of the battery voltage a bit low, or sometimes it's just, shit just happens where the slide will lock somewhere around here, and then it just jams there. You cannot manually pull the slide or push the slide or whatever, and then it just jams there. Nothing happens, and it can be really, it can induce panic actually when this happens to those that are not used to this type of a platform. So when that happens, do not try and force the slide forward. That will damage the motor and the gear system. Instead, grab a magnet, right? A magnet, and if you take a close look, you can't really see it, but it's around here, right? This black color tabs here. There is a Hall effect sensor housed around this area, and this is how the electronic system actually works. So what you want to do is you grab a magnet, and then you just slowly scans around this area. That will activate the system, and that will help the system to cycle to the normal, back to the normal, to the battery positions or whatever you call it. So yeah, so if you run an Edge, I think it's really advisable that you bring, a jam rod and also a piece of a magnet. Sounds really funny, but yeah, that's actually going to be really helpful. Right, so I think that's pretty much about it. Right now, let me just show you the firing of this blaster. Right, the system is fine. Right, magazine in, rack the slide, and yeah, this can happen sometimes because of the darts. Right, the slide sort of jam, right, because it fails to push the darts into the chambers, and because of this particular QWK darts where the front of the foam is slightly flat, so it just gets jams in the somewhere near the chambers in there. So yeah, this is actually a darts problem, not really the system itself that's the issue. Let me try again. Let me see if I can load another darts. This looks quite bad as well. I mean, let's see. Yeah, same thing happened again. So yeah, the QWK Edge is quite picky on darts, to say the least, because even some of the QWK darts I have, which works perfectly with the Mark III, doesn't really work well with the Edge. Yeah, so that's something to keep in mind. Let me just try one more and see if I can get it to work. Ah, this works. Let's see if it will work throughout the magazines. I have some targets laid behind the camera, so well, let me just shoot this. I have to say, when the blaster works, it feels really amazing, because the trigger is just like your good old mechanical Springer, where everything is mechanical. So the trigger pull is actually very physical. You will feel the mechanical, the feel of it when you pull the trigger instead of a soulless, mushy trigger pull. Right, it feels really good. Right, so that's one magazine finished, and there's no jam. Well, of course, it's QWK darts. So yeah, that's basically how the Edge works, right? And there isn't much to talk about the functionality of this blaster, because it's semi-only, which is great, by the way. There's no full auto or 3-shot burst or any sort of fancy firing modes, just semi-only. So yeah, I suppose there isn't much to talk about now. Well, I talk about the retractable buttstock. The magazine release is in good positions, I would say, right? And one interesting thing to note about the mag release is actually ambidextrous. You can actually take it apart, wire a screw here, and swap it around, and then it will be left-handed friendly. But then again, right, the fact that this bracer has this shape, right, if you hold it with your right hand, it will be nice to house your hand here. But a total bonker if you are left-handed. It just gets into the way all the time and it feels very awkward. But yeah, it is what it is. You can actually remove this buttstock if you don't want to use it. But yeah, it's really cool though. Right, so I'm just going to do some mag dumps. Right now, this is the magazine I just loaded with the Dart Zones Ruby darts. Let's see if I can actually get this out without any jams, because I saw one of the darts is being squished to hell already. Right, so as you notice, the slide is now locked back. The magazine, when the magazine is empty, the slide will lock back and nothing will happen when you pull the trigger. Pretty neat. Right, so once you reload, right, there's two ways to release the slide. The first way is to, well, by striking this slide release latch, right, that will send the slide forward. Let me just finish this mag first. Yeah, that's the jam, right? Which did not really surprise me because it happens very consistently. So when the jam happens, the slide is stuck halfway because the darts is being squished at the middle here. So one good thing about the Edge, right, is when this type of a jam occurred, it doesn't happen well, quite as bad as the Mark III, because that thing is almost fully electronics. That time, if your bolt is not fully closed, well, not the Pro Max, because that has the jam detection system, but the regular Mark III, let's just say, even without the bolt fully closed, means there's a jam, and you pull the trigger again, right, it will fire the system. But on this blaster, if you pull the trigger and it jams, right, it doesn't actually cause the slide to cycle again when there's a jam, right? So that is good if you want to clear the jam. Now, why the slide doesn't actually cycle? Because you can see the slide is not in the full battery is not in its closed position. You can see there's a gap here. So when you at this condition, you pull the trigger, nothing will happen. So you can easily pull out the magazine and just wrap the slide. Right? That will actually, oh my goodness, see this? Jesus, man. Yeah. So that's how you clear the jam on the edge. Okay, there's another dust in there, so right. So yeah, when the jam happens in the edge, it can be quite ugly. So yeah, I destroyed 2 of these dust zone ducts already, probably more. So when jam happens with the edge, I would say it's relatively more easy. It's easier to clear the jams compared to the Mark IIIs, right? So just make sure that the barrel is clear, right, before you insert the max again, and I'm pretty sure it's going to jam again. Let's just see. Right, I mentioned just now that one of the methods to release the slide is by pulling this slide release down, or slide lock. The other method is my preferred method, which is to power stroke this thing, meaning you can pull the slide backward, right, and then the slide release would drop, and then you can release the slide, and then it's ready to go again. Yeah, that just sucks with the edge. Right, and it happens again, right? Yeah. So I'm not really surprised because the length of the this ruby darts is slightly longer than the other regular worker darts. So yeah, I really don't recommend using the dart zone these darts, or maybe the other dart zone, or any sort of a dart from dart zones. It's probably not really suitable for the edge. So yeah, you want to keep that in mind if this is a thing, if you really love the dart zone darts. So edge might not be your thing because it's going to frustrate you to hell. Let's see if okay, some more darts, 2 more in the magazine. Let's just finish it. Okay, alright. So that's the edge. Edge can be quite picky on darts. So let me now try and load some regular Worker Gen 2 high-end. This is the non-bamboo versions, which actually gives me the best result out of most of these regular darts. Right, 12 of the Worker Gen 2 high-end loaded. Let's see how it goes. So we clear the max. I mean, the darts are all get shot out pretty nicely, and there's no jam, no drama, which is, I think the Worker Gen 2 or Gen 3 is probably the best darts, most suitable darts for the QWK Edge. Right, so next I have the still Worker Gen 2 high-end. This is the bamboo darts, which I noticed this batch is somewhat longer than the regular darts by just a couple of 0.something mm, and sometimes I have a bit of a jam using them. So yeah, your mouse may vary really depending on the type of darts that you use with the edge. Alright, for darts, I will try and pull the trigger as fast as possible with this dart and see if you can actually get it to jam. Right. Okay, no jams. Alright, so let's just keep going, shall we? Alright, the Gen 2 bamboo, the black foams. Right, 12 of this. Oops. Right, 12 of this. Alright, cleared all of them without any dramas. Let's try another match, shall we? Right, let's try the dart zone darts again. 12 darts, and I have a really bad feeling about it. Oh, alright, it cleared all 12 of this dart zone ruby darts without any problem this time. Yeah, sometimes it's very weird because, yeah, things just don't work really consistently. So, but still, I wouldn't recommend using the dart zone ruby darts. So, yeah. So I'm just going to load, mixing the darts here. The Worker Gen 2, bamboos, say the QWK darts, some of these knock-off bamboo darts, one random darts that comes with the blaster, I think, with the Edge. Some Worker Gen 3s, these are pretty worn. Alright, I think that's enough. Alright, let's see if we can actually get through this. Alright, no jams, it's great. And I have some of these really old darts. These are the darts from Jet Blaster, the Cedar Quick Dart or something. Let's see if it works. I haven't tried this with the Edge yet, by the way, so. Right, 12 of them. Let's see if it works. Oh, works. No jams. Looks like the length of the darts is really crucial when it comes to any sort of automated springers because of how tight the system is designed and they work. Any type of irregularity of the darts, especially the length and the thickness of the foam, can cause a lot of havoc to the system. So a lot of the time, it's not that the blaster is garbage. You know, it is really just a type of ammos that you use with the blaster. It is the nature of the automated springers. I'm afraid, no matter how long time the system takes to develop, it is still going to be down to the type of a darts that you feed into the system. So if you feed the wrong type of a darts, you are going to have a lot of frustration using any sort of automated springers. Right, so let me just finish the darts here, shall we? Alright, no jams. So is the blaster, you know, the Edge or AEG blaster garbage? In my opinion, no. Most of them are designed quite well actually. Right, even the what's it called, the BK1, ZU's BK1, you know, the white and blue AEG blaster that's quite reasonably priced. It's not total garbage. Probably do a review on that as well and just do something like this and show you that the blaster does work, provided that you are feeding it, you know, the correct darts. But yeah, I think it's quite clear to me that using an AEG type blaster can be quite frustrating, but it relies heavily on the user itself to know how things works and what not to do, you know, with this type of blaster. So yeah, to me they are not total garbage. They are damn awesome, by the way. I love them, but it can be really frustrating for beginners, you know, or someone that has no idea about how an AEG or automated springer works. And yeah, so if you want to buy one of these, the Edge or any other type of AEG blaster, you need to know what you are getting yourself into. So if you get frustrated easily, I would say avoid any type of auto springers because things are going to happen for sure. It's just that how are you going to deal with it and how fast you can deal with it. I think that's the main thing about using automated Nerf blaster, AEGs, AEBs, whatever you call it. Alright, let's see. Right, no jams. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, just get a bit warm in here because this is where the motor sits. A bit warm, but it's fine. Right, so to deprime the blaster, well, just unplug the battery. This is very important because otherwise then the blaster will keep cycling. So remove the battery, then you can either load the dart into the system or just use your thumb and just... By the way, let's talk about the air seal of this blaster, shall we? Right, because the plunger tube is the oval shaped type, much like the Dazon Pro Mark II or the latest Mark 2.1 is oval shaped type. And a lot of the time, this type of a seal is not really ideal, but let's see how it is like on the edge. Right, let's test the air seal. 1, 2, yeah. The air seal is not perfect. I can hear that the piston is moving it's being pushed forward by the spring, but there are still air seal. So let's see if I do an immediate one. Okay. Right, it is pretty decent considering that your barrel is just this short. I'm not really sure how long, but 17 cm maybe. I'm not sure, but yeah. The air seal is not going to be a really big issue for this type of a system. So yeah, that's that. Yeah, pretty good. Right, and that is the sort of a short review for this QWK Edge. So should you get one? I don't know. I mean, it really depends on your preference, whether you can accept this type of a system and the flaws or the inherent characteristic that comes with the Edge. If you think this is your thing, I can definitely recommend it. But if you're not willing to deal with, you know, the jams, the potential jams and that, I would say stay away and probably wait for a better revision or something that further improve the system. Like the later batch of the Edge, the QWK has fixed a lot of the issues. They even actually revised the molds for the lower receiver to make it more ergonomics and also to make it close out better. Not sure you can see, but the gaps between the lower receiver is quite apparent. You can tell. Apparently, they have made a revisions on this mold to make it seals up nicer. But yeah, that's my take on the QWK Edge, right? I have no idea when it will be available in Monkey Mods. It's probably still going to be some time before it will be available. We are still working out solutions with QWK. So yeah, stay tuned. Right, please subscribe, like the video if you find this informative, and I'll see you guys next video.